Welcome to another edition of Wings Weekly. Jay Klein Connect here, along with head coach Scott Langer. Coach, Wings take 3 out of a possible 4 points over the weekend after a 5-3 win Friday night and a 2-3 overtime loss on Saturday. But let's start with Friday. A bit of a roller coaster, exchanging leads, and a nice comeback win for your guys. What did you guys take away from Friday night?
Well, obviously we take away the result. We fell down, we fell behind there early in the third, and we just stuck to it, and we found a way to obviously tie that game and then win it, which was huge for us because we didn't start very well. We didn't start very well in the first period, and we didn't start very well in the third period. So we did get going there in the third period, and once we kind of got our feet going and started doing things the right way, we got the result we needed.
Some real strong second period for you guys too. It was kind of nice to answer the quick tempo that the Wilderness had after their start in the first.
Yeah, they came out. They were going hard against us. They had a lot of push against us in that first period, and we knew. We talked about it in the second period that we're at home and we were going to have to change our mentality because they were coming hard, and they're a good hockey team. So. We didn't have quite the start that we needed in the third. That was a big one, and we didn't take the pressure off our goaltending, and they found a way. So, but again, it's about the result. You're not gonna harp on a game when you get the 2 points.
Absolutely. Well, you roll into Saturday, which would have been the third game in 4 days for the Wilderness, and you guys come out. And, Wilderness again with a good start. They got on the board first, and then again it ends up being an overtime loss. You get the point, of course, which is certainly a positive. But what do you go as a staff? What do you take away from Saturday?
Well, I mean, it's I thought our third period was one of the best third periods we've played all season, and that being said, we still gave up that tying goal. On a breakdown in coverage. So it only took one mistake for them to even the score. And then, you get in overtime where we should feel completely comfortable at this point because every one of our games basically is going into overtime and we get beat on coverage. And, they score a nice goal with a lot of speed and we just couldn't match their speed. And at some point where these single point games that we're getting are actually going to hurt us. It's always nice to get a point, but I think with the way this division is this year and how much parity there is and teams are taking points every night, the 1 point might not be good enough when it's said and done. So we have to figure out a way to score more goals. I think our defense is good. I like our goaltending. I think we have to give them a little more cushion and find a way to score a few goals.
Well, specialty teams really not much of a factor in this weekend, well, at least statistically speaking. But it kind of need to at least touch on it a little bit. The power play right now at 20.8%, the penalty kill at 85.2%. Respectable numbers, but the power play 0-4 on the weekend and the kill perfect on the killing all 3 power play opportunities that the Wilderness had over the weekend. Do you feel pretty good about the way specialty teams played?
Well, I mean, obviously it's good when your penalty kill doesn't give anything up, and they're a skilled hockey team that can hurt you on the power play. They've proven that, and Coach Hill's working a ton on the power play, but those guys have to step up, and we had an opportunity there on a 5-on-3 that we didn't score on, and some of those chances that if we utilize our power play like we did last year with big goals, we might not be in those nail biters. So we have to keep progressing in the power play. We have a lot of guys that are capable of playing on the specialty teams, and but when you get that opportunity, you got to get it done. And right now, I mean, I have no problem with the way we're going. We just need to get the result, and it doesn't have to look good. It just has to be scoring some goals.
Right, just be effective. Well, speaking of scoring goals, some pretty balanced scoring over the weekend. And we talked earlier this year about last year's team, or certainly last year too, quite a bit about how any line could score at any given time. But we started to see that this weekend from this team too. Is that you feel like this team's headed that direction too?
Well, I mean, we certainly can't rely on the two lines to do all of our scoring, and you got to take some of the pressure off them because teams are going to match against them, and they're not going to have nights when they score. So it's nice from the coaching side of things that you are getting some scoring from all your lines, and we did this weekend. And when you get secondary scoring, it's always a bonus, and we're not scoring a ton of goals, so it's good that we're utilizing some of our depth to get goals.
Yeah, without a doubt. All right, well, Bismarck is at the top of the division right now with 20 points, then Minot and the Wilderness both with 19. Wings and Austin both with 15 points, and St. Cloud at the bottom with 10. Coach, up next, a tough road trip against the 10-2 Chippewa Steel. What have you seen about the Steel, and what do you know about them?
Well, they were a real young team last year, so they brought back a lot of guys. They did a good job on their recruiting, filling some of their holes, and they're playing with a lot of confidence right now. They're good on home ice, so I mean it's going to be a good test for this group, and it's about seeing how we're going to respond after losing at home.
Mm-hmm. Well, like we said, Chippewa Steel 10-2 right now in the top of the Midwest. They're a good start to the season so far. So Wings will have their work cut out for them for sure. Well, Coach, I won't keep you much longer here. I do appreciate you coming on the show as usual and talking with us a little bit about the weekend that was and what's coming up. So thanks so much.
Thank you.
We'll be back with another player coming up after this word from our sponsor. Welcome back as we continue on with Wings Weekly, and as promised, a player joining me, veteran defenseman Antonio DePaulo from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada. Thanks so much for coming on the show with me.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be on Wings Weekly.
Right on. Well, I mentioned it, veteran guy. You've been around, played in the SJHL, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But I wanted to pick your brain a little bit about the differences between some other of the other leagues and so on. Like, what's the North American League been like as far as the style of play and that kind of thing that you've seen so far?
For sure, a lot more skill. I think in the SJHL, it's a lot of banging and crashing, and here we have a good mix of that kind of speed style and getting your face and forechecking. But I mean, everybody on the team and every line is just a lot more skill. They can really put the puck in the net, and I think the biggest thing that comes with that is there's a lot less margin for error. You can't really make mistakes, and turnovers are in the back of your net quick. And then on the opposite end here, as soon as we're turning a puck over, we're on the press and trying to score too. So the offense is a little bit different than just kind of your grind and pump and dump kind of style, but it's almost fits, I think, with my mobility a little bit more. I feel a little bit more comfortable in this style, and it's just been really fun every night to come play here.
Awesome. Glad to hear it. Well, and like Coach just said, all it takes is one mistake, and they're going to pick up a goal sometimes. So definitely important to limit those. You mentioned it, that it fits your style of play as far as your mobility and so on. How did you become an Aberdeen Wing? Did you go to camp, or did somebody reach out to you and say, hey, this is a team you should give a look? Or?
Yeah, so I think they have a Western Canadian scout who kind of reached out to me at the midway to the end of my season last year. And to be honest, at the time, I really hadn't considered leaving Saskatchewan. I had a pretty good thing going where I was, and being one of the kind of top guys in the league was really fun. But actually, I was brought down by the Minnesota Magicians for a visit and just kind of got to see what the null play style was like. And the one big thing was the coach there, he just showed me how many D1 commits that they had, and that's kind of been my dream in hockey for a long, long time. So, coming off this season we had last year, being not a very good team up in La Ronge, it was, and I didn't really want to leave and leave my guys, but I think for me personally, it was just a decision to try to go wherever I had the best opportunity to find a D1 scholarship, and I'm really happy that I landed here and hoping that works out.
Sure. So did, like you said, a scout reach out to you midway through last season or whatever? So do you end up having to come to camp, or is it like you just come? What was your first exposure, I guess, to the Wings?
So I'd kind of been wine and dined a little bit by a few NAL teams and really wasn't sure as to where I was going to be playing next year. And, a big part of me really wanted to stay back where I was as well. And I think just seeing the run that the Wings were on last year and watching them, seeing how many fans are at the Odie every night, and the resume of Langer and Hill was really attractive to me for sure. And I tendered. I think while these guys were still making their playoff run last year and brought down to camp, and I feel like it's such a blessing to be here for sure.
Excellent. Good to know. I like that. It's sometimes we know the story of guys who go to camp and have to make their way through or come onto a team, but then there's other guys like you, or like how Nick Sicoli last year or so on, the last 2 years. You kind of have a different route of how they got here. That's why I wanted to specifically to ask you that. Tell me a little bit about your family. Do you have brothers and sisters? Do you have anybody else that's played hockey that maybe kind of turned you on, or is it just being a Canadian that you was kind of required?
Well, actually, I grew up in a house with an older and a younger sister, so I didn't have a lot of. I used to play mini sticks with myself sometimes, shoot myself, but I've had a lot of really good role models and coaches that have kind of brought me up and really galvanized my love for the game. And then as well, I have cousins that both played in the NHL. One's playing with the Rangers right now. His name's Brett Howden. They're from Manitoba. And then Quentin Howden played with Florida and with Winnipeg Jets and the Moose organization there. And now he's over in the KHL. So those are kind of two guys I really looked up towards and wanted to be like them for sure. And yeah.
Excellent. Let's see. I wanted to ask, I got a couple of kind of sillier questions for you a little bit later on, but I wanted to talk to you a little bit about leadership and what it means to have the letter on your sweater to you personally, but also about the role and what's expected of you.
I think I was kind of brought in and kind of had to grow up pretty quickly with my situation when I was an 18-year-old. I was traded from a first to a last place team and, kind of started racking up the minutes. And for sure on ice, I felt like a leader there, but I think that situation kind of really prepared me for the role I'm in today. And, I'm really grateful to be with the guys. We have leadership from a ton of guys and a ton of guys that don't wear letters as well. So, we have great leadership by committee. But for me, I think, I've kind of really learned to be vocal. And the way I did that was just by looking up to older guys. I mean, when I was a younger guy and kind of knowing what needed to be said at what time. And I think I was really fortunate with the guys had coming up in Humboldt especially. We had some really fantastic leaders there. And I think a leader, you just have to really focus on being your best, but also raising everybody else up to their best. And I think with the guys that we have in here, our leadership core, I think we're really trying to just focus on getting everybody on board and getting everybody to pull the right way.
Excellent. Glad to hear it. Yeah, you mentioned it. You played for the Humboldt Broncos. That tragedy that took place, with the bus. Obviously, I think everybody that's watching this knows what I'm talking about. But it hit everybody all throughout hockey. But I think especially in the junior hockey and the bus leagues. And I can't imagine. I mean, I had to really strike home for you, having been on that bus and having known exactly where they were going and all that kind of stuff. That's really had to kind of shake you, huh? For
sure, yeah. It was actually really fortunate. We were having my LaRange Ice Wolves. We were having our spring camp the same weekend that was going on. So, I really had my teammates there to kind of lean on over that weekend, and even the guys that are still alive and. We still talk and keep in touch, and can be sending like an old goofy snap from that year on the team, or even I had a guy reach out to me the other day he's now playing college hockey in Canada, who just said he wasn't having a good day. And I think it's been really, it was obviously really tough, and at the time, and you have your days where you kind of go in and out, and really the group of guys that were there was what made it so tragic. I think, especially for me, like we were just an incredibly close team, and I feel a lot of similarities that were similarities here, I guess, as far as the coaches are very similar to how they were in Humboldt, and just the general demeanor around the team. But it's really brought a lot of people together as well, and I'm pretty happy that I have guys to lean on from that, for sure.
Wow, I mean, I still when the word came out, when that news came around, I think everybody was just absolutely shook because of how much time we do spend on the bus and can relate to that. But again, our thoughts and prayers still to the survivors and all of those affected, because it's just still hard for me to stomach, hard for many people to wrap their brains around. But now, going from that level of seriousness, I wanted to ask you a little bit about your impressions of Aberdeen. When I get guys on the show that are from Michigan or Minnesota or whatever, obviously they're used to the cold and so on. So obviously Saskatchewan, not a whole lot different from the plains of South Dakota in many ways. But the city itself, what are your impressions?
It's actually a lot different than I kind of expected.
Really?
It's hard to kind of put your finger on it. Just even like the roads and like the light situations are a lot kind of different from Canada, where I'm used to driving around. And I think just the buildings, the trains, I live close to the trains woke me up last night. But, I actually really like the size of the city for sure. I mean, not too big, and you can kind of get around. There's lots to do as well. And, it's just been really fortunate to be where I am, I think, for sure. I couldn't really complain about anything at all.
Well, glad to hear it, and we're certainly happy to have you. What if you had a death row kind of meal or whatever, where you could pick out exactly every course of everything that it's going to be? What's your perfect meal look like?
Oof. I think I would have to go. I mean, really Italian guys. I just have to go with some fettuccine Alfredo for sure. I think.
Nice.
I'm not really picky about anything, especially when it comes to food. So, almost anything is at play. But I think if I had to pick one thing, it'd be a big pasta meal for sure.
Nice. I think it's funny when I ask that question, because some guys, they could sit there and go, okay, I want my mom's this. I want my grandma's, dessert of whatever, and I want a porterhouse this big, and they can sit there and pinpoint every little thing. And then there's other guys like you who aren't real picky. They just want some comfort food, so to speak. Let's see. Well, along those same lines, I guess, if you had to eat one meal, or one food for the rest of your life, over and over and over again, I mean, anything, even your favorite's going to get old. But what would that be? Same thing?
For me this summer, we had a poke. You ever had poke bowl?
Can't say that I have.
It's like a sushi bowl kind of. We had a restaurant open up where it was right beside where I would work out almost every day too. So I kind of got into the routine of going to the gym and getting that. So it was healthy enough. I feel like that could sustain me for my whole life, and I don't know if I'd get too sick of it. So I think I go with a poke bowl.
A poke bowl.
Yeah.
Interesting. I'll have to check that out. Okay. Well, hey, I don't have a whole lot else for you. But again, I appreciate you, coming on the show. I know you guys, your busy schedules and so on, but appreciate it when you guys can take some time and talk to us a little bit and let the fans get a chance to see behind the visor a little bit. So thanks so much. Friday and Saturday, November 1st and 2nd, the Wings are back in action at the Chippewa Steel there in Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin. 7:10 puck drop both nights. You can watch on at Buffalo Wings and Rings in Aberdeen on Hockey TV. Listen to 94.1 The Rock, HubCityRadio.com, or The Rock app. The Wings return home Friday, November 8th versus the Minot Minotauros. Rooster Rush Night, a free t-shirt giveaway at the door courtesy of the Aberdeen Area Convention and Visitors Bureau. Schwann Financial is the corporate sponsor for that game. And Saturday, November 9th versus the Minot Minotauros once again. Veterans Day Military Appreciation Game. Corporate sponsor that night is BAE Systems. For all the latest news and information on the Wings, visit AberdeenWings.com or follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and on Instagram. The Wings have begun our Day with the Cup promotion. If you advertise with the Wings or have season tickets and you want your business to spend a day with the Cup, contact Aaron Smith at 605-380-5852 to schedule. Remaining reserved season tickets and corporate night sponsorships are still available. Call Aaron for that as well. So once again, Antonio, I appreciate you coming on the show, and looking forward to what you guys can do the rest of the season, and certainly this weekend against Chippewa Steel.
Thanks so much. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, you bet. Well, folks, that'll pretty much wrap up this week's Wings Weekly.